Hello, and
Hello.
I have 39 dark ready, and I have my yes, haha, and I have my dice.
Mhm.
Although I don't think I'm going to need dice because if I'm not mistaken, you don't want to be a game master. Um,
I never want to be a game
that's
master.
I know, and for once, you're right now, just today, you're in a group who's not begging you to do it. So
Oh,
yeah,
incredible. I can't believe it.
I know. So now, I love this game, and I haven't played it enough, and I really am looking forward to this. You are going to have to be the person with the paper and using
Mm.
the diagram and stuff like that. So I don't think it's too much of a problem. You are
Mhm.
correct on email by saying that yes, we're supposed to make cards and stuff like that, but it's not very hard, right? I mean, a
Mm.
random draw, we'll assign each one a number, and take it from there. Now we will need six of these things for the anger cards. The way to do it is that I'm going to write down uh, on each card. We will write down one thing that angers them about their real life governments. And so you get three, and I get three. So I'm going to do this on paper over here for ease of use. Let's have me. Why don't you assign yours one through three, and I'll assign mine
Okay.
four through six, and then we'll
Okay.
roll a die and see which two arrive to be on the table in front of us. It's also a little interesting because I'm choosing the Swedish government
Ah,
rather
I
than the
be,
United States one.
it's a sign that you are becoming.
Well, I definitely long ago, felt a very strong transition, and furthermore, it has been 11 months. And third, for purposes of play, it's the United States government for me is kind of a very easy target. You know,
So
it's
you're looking at the card, so you're saying only three.
I know, well, exactly. I mean, how big do you want them to be? And here we are. So the first number is one. The
Ah,
second,
one of mine.
yeah, and the second one is six.
One of yours. It's unconstrained, unrestrained grid. Everything is uh, is seen as a way to make money.
Right, right. And then, so this is about the government in particular.
Yes,
Okay. And
yes.
then
Not
mine is,
is
uh,
a is the form of corruption. So not money for the government, money for the
yeah,
people.
right. It's so, yes, corruption. Absolutely. And if I'm not mistaken, part of that is that this is so ordinary as to be treated as normal.
Yes.
Right. And so then in my case, it is arms dealing, creating and selling weaponry. Um, and in particular, though, while maintaining a reputation as being a peaceful nation. It's getting a lot of credit for not being a military power, but you're selling high tech weaponry to everybody. So basically, hypocritical arms dealing.
So you hate the weapon so much that you give away all you have.
I guess it's okay if you sell them. Um, so with those two cards on the table, it's easy to go to step two, which we can move pretty quickly, I think. Factions. And this, of course, is the
Action.
fun part. We are going to choose four fringe political movements that currently exist or were so influential that they have a present day influence, even if the group is gone. And they don't pick something that's mainstream. I mean, it could be a
Mm,
political party, but it should be a fringe party.
mm.
Um, or it maybe not even be a political party and just be an organization. And so we will pick four of them. We should be pretty familiar with them. And I definitely recommend going to your local knowledge. Um, the Yeah, let's see. I know which one. I know at least one that I'm going to pick, and it can be from anywhere. It doesn't have to be Italian, but I guess what I'm saying is let's just avoid the standard American news presence, um, unless there's something you really, really like to include. Okay, I've got mine.
What did you choose?
Well, first is a street patrol group that began in Finland and is now present in several nearby countries, including Sweden. It's called the Soldiers of Odin, and it is a white supremacist group in American terms, Nordic Scandinavian nativist, which is deeply anti-immigrant, regards immigrants as criminals who are being let into the country, and says we need to patrol our streets to keep people safe from them. And is They have a distinctive logo, which is really just the name in English on the back of the jacket, and are at least, and I've seen them right here where I live in Norrköping. Um, just a bunch of guys getting a burger, but not too surprisingly, a bunch of young men about 20, looking very similar, looking very alike. Um, so that's one group, and another one is Anon Coders, which is a group of website hackers who will interfere with websites and also promote leaks regarding the website's funding, particularly focusing on anti-Islam and pro-Israel organizations and websites.
Against pro-Israel or pro-Israel themselves?
It's against the pro-Israel websites.
Okay.
Right. So it's attacking the websites and secrets or funding backgrounds of aggressively pro-Israel groups like Campus Watch and things like that. So
thinking that you will be the one that will have to describe this fringe group, maybe it's better if I choose something international or no to you in some way.
well, no. Pick two fringe groups that are appealing or interesting.
Okay.
Not, I don't know
Uh,
about appealing, but interesting to you.
I did choose two groups very, very different between each other in
Yeah.
age, behavior, political. One was very unconstructed and very quickly faded political young students in Italy 20 years ago. The name is the Panther.
Oh, the Panther.
The Panther. Was very quick, very unorganized, and dissolved almost suddenly. And it was about everything young students wanted from school, from government. Was really something more. We want something now. More than anything, probably more funds to school. And school that worked better.
Right.
More in general, government that worked better. The
Got
second one
Uh-huh.
is more recent, more organized. Some people say, I believe it's true, it was organized from outside, from big political parties, and was a right-wing movement. The name I don't know. The Rake. this instrument used to in the agriculture, when you take the grain from the ground, the one
Oh,
with the
yes.
point, the
Right.
one people grab when they want to kill Frankenstein.
Right. Yes. And
Yes,
in Italian, what's the word again?
Forconi.
Forcone. Is that what the group called itself?
Yes,
Okay. And
they moved around, manifesting against the European Union
mhm.
and immigrants and everything they considered left, and wanted to uphold the traditional Italian values, and they moved around with this. They missed all the torch, and it was the mob they wanted to kill the monster of Frankenstein.
Right. Right. Uh-huh. So we have four very different groups,
Yes,
um, with some interesting overlaps. The Soldiers of Odin are an ethnic, um, anti-immigrant, and as they see it, anti-crime, uh, but and also very much into vigilantism, street vigilantism, groups that protect the neighborhood and protect our women and things like that. And then you have, the anon coders who are anti-Zionist. So they expose websites and what they perceive as Hasbara propaganda, um, that's serving the interest of the Israeli government. So they are attacking or exposing those particular propaganda outlets. And as the name implies, they're anonymous. I mean, these are hackers who stay completely unknown. And then you have, the Panther, which is a student advocacy group, and very vocal. Very very spontaneous. It sounds like, in
yes,
many ways, and so they are. What's interesting is that they are not demanding education as a privilege so much as saying, no, we want this to be good. We want to be here.
yes.
And so,
And for more people. At
right,
the
yeah,
time,
yeah,
there
yeah,
was
interesting.
an
Okay,
increase in school taxes.
right, right. So, okay, so yes, demanding that the government put more money into better schools for more people.
Yes,
Okay, and then we have, I'm not sure I've spelled it correctly, and check my pronunciation, Forcone,
yes,
which
perfect.
is, thank you. When in English it may or may not be a rake,
Yes,
but it's
I think
related
so.
to some sort of implement. I'm imagining a very scary rake, like
Yes.
a
So not something
industri- in,
flimsy with a lot
right,
of
right,
dents, but
exactly,
something more a trident.
yeah, industrial grade.
Yes,
And so, this is against the European Union, against, the Europe, against, anti, against it's anti-left basically,
yes,
and certainly has an ethnic quality in terms of anti-immigration, perhaps, and very much about traditional values of
yes.
the nation itself. Okay, so,
And
mhm.
adding something, it was more about the country against the cities.
Yes, rural. Yeah, no surprise. Okay, in this case. So now what's kind of interesting is that you write them in the four corner boxes of the faction map. And the tricky thing about it is that I don't want to overthink it and decide exactly which ones go next to each other. In fact, I almost want to be random. But it's kind of hard with just four. You're going to be choosing. I think I'm going to just have to do the obvious. Let's have the Soldiers of Odin and Forconi to be next to each other
Mhm.
instead of opposites. And so then, because otherwise that would be really depressing. And then we have, the Anon Coders and the Panther to be on the other side. So you have.
So,
Mhm,
upper left,
mhm.
what do you
Okay,
put
sure.
on the
Upper
upper
upper left is going to be the Panther,
center?
and lower left will be, the Anon Coders. The top right will be the soldiers of Odin, and the bottom right will be Forconi. So um, that means that steel is soldiers and panther.
Hmm?
It means that scarlet is panther and anon coders. It means that gold is anon coders and Forconi, and it means that midnight is the soldiers and Forconi. So we have to kind of forget the parties now, or forget the
Yes.
groups, and start thinking about our fictional groups. Um, Midnight is clearly terrifying. Midnight is a combination of local street vigilantism and deep rural conservatism and uh, uh, anti intellectual right wing. And then you have gold, which is very interesting. Here we see that gold is a combination of that same ideology. So they're like the technical wing of Midnight. Gold is like the hacker anonymous, communications version of Midnight. With a little, but it doesn't take to the streets like Midnight does. Um, and Then Steel does take to the streets, and is, however, based on the pro education, pro student outreach, more education for everyone. And so it seems to me that Steel and Midnight do not get along well on those streets. You know,
Yes.
I can see street clashes between them very,
Yes.
very quickly.
Different
Yeah.
street.
Yeah, well, maybe so, but maybe they go looking for the other one on a bad night. It's kind of interesting. The Midnight's going to consider itself to be helping the police, even if the police don't like it, and Steel is going to be probably have a very bad relationship with the police. Um, and then Scarlet is going to be sort of the outlier here. Scarlet is the, again, pro student, pro education, outreach oriented, and also the website or communications anti propaganda, probably going after government groups and the corruption behind the schools. You know, whoever's profiting out of making shitty schools, Scarlet's going after them in a big way, mainly through communications. And given the influence from Panther, probably by organizing demonstrations and stuff like that. So that is 39 Dark, is the uneasy coalition of these four groups: Scarlet, Steel, Midnight, and Gold. Um, and so, with that in mind, looking at my rules, we look at our next step, which are the organizations. And so, on the organization map, clearly Deputy Chief Tandy is going to have strong midnight connections. That seems to be really obvious. I'm sure that happens in nearly every game of 39 Dark. And yeah, that the feed writer, Silja Asp, in the News Network Corporation, is very
Yes.
sympathetic to and has ties with Scarlet. Oh, and it says when a personality is labeled with a faction, that character becomes a target for the faction. The faction considers them a potential ally. So that person is not really already suborned or working with that faction, but they are considered valuable to the faction. Steel is really interested in the coalition representative, Ela Verma, in the government. That's the
Yes.
coalition representative is actually associated with Earth. So Steel is trying to reach out to Earth for support. you were talking about how Forcone had external support, and but Forcone is not influencing Steele, so Steele would like to be more like Midnight. Steele would like to get that external support that Midnight may have. So they're reaching out to Ela Verma. From the United Workers, we have a surprisingly unleft group of factions. You may have noticed that. And so the direct connection with labor isn't really there. They take the council member, so that they have the United Workers council member. I think they're associated with. Is that the same council as the colony government? I think it is. Um, so it's the workers' presence in the council. And
Yes.
I'd say that person is interested in Scarlet. That person has an interest in educated labor. That Zhang Li is considered to be sympathetic to them. At least Scarlet wants Zhang Li to be sympathetic to them. So there we go. Right. Peacekeepers are a paramilitary police force organized by the colony's first deputy mayor, now retired. They are supposed to be part of the colony's executive branch, but they have claimed greater independence. So the fellow Zaki Zhao has almost made a private political power on Mars through the peacekeepers. And so you are now going to take 9 tokens, and you have loyal. They have put them in loyal, which is great. And then you, okay, now loyalty is interesting. Loyalty is not to 39 Dark. Loyalty is to the mainstream society. So Lane Novak has a very strong reputation as being legitimate to the mainstream. And that's one of the reasons why the factions of 39 Dark have agreed to work together. But that's a reputation. Lane's private opinions or personal history are very much up to you. If you have, just like in Mars Colony, if you fill up too many tokens in contempt, then the government removes Kelly Perkins because it's not making the government look good to have them there. Here, it's a little different in that if you build up too many tokens in treasonous, the citizens will demand that the colony government stop Lane Novak, and we can probably guess how that would be done. So you will choose a faction for Lane Novak. That's more of a matter of reputation than it is personal conviction. You have history with that faction, and people associate you with that faction. Another faction who's mad at Lane Novak might claim that you're not really 39 Dark, you're just gold, or something like that.
I think Lane Novak is from Steel.
From Steel, okay.
Yes.
Okay, interesting. And so then Steel, yeah. So Panther, so interesting. The sort of the Street Fighter student group, right? So now you are going to make 3 followers. One is a relative, one is a lover, and one is a fanatic of 39 Dark. And also assign them to the factions.
The fanatic is probably the head of security.
Oh wait, no, sorry. You're not. You don't assign them to the. I think you're looking at the wrong sheet. Don't assign them to the organization map. Assign them to factions of 39.
No, okay. I was not talking about political role. I was
Okay.
talking that when Novak move around, this is the guy
Okay.
that follow him behind and
Right.
make sure
Okay.
nobody attack him. So is I will put making a fanatic the head of security. What could go wrong?
Right. Now the head of security for Mars.
No, for
For 39 Dark.
personal.
Got it.
No,
Got it. His
only
personal.
for Novak.
I see. So Novak's bodyguard, or
Yes.
leader or manager of protection.
Yes.
Novak's, and so manager. So before you pick a name, let's get the others. And also,
Yes.
what faction specifically is that character associated
Midnight.
with? Midnight, right? Of course. And so then we have a lover or a lover or a relative.
Both, I think. One
No,
lover.
we need one of both, one of each.
Yes.
So which
yes. The lover is from Steel too.
one? Mm-hmm.
The relative could be a sister with the Scarlet.
Got it. Okay, I'm in good shape. So I know you love this part. You get to make up names. I know.
You don't have a list of names?
I know. And so I'm going to suggest that we keep this actually pretty easy and just do first names.
Okay. The lover is Anne.
Mm-hmm.
The sister is Sarah.
Mm-hmm.
And the fanatic is Jack.
Jack. All right. Interesting. Okay. So we have, I believe, our set of preparations. You should give me a detail or two. You told me that Jack has been with Novak for a long time. And
Yes.
since Novak is more or less associated with Steel, and Jack is associated with Midnight, there's probably been this has been a way for those two groups to get along. Novak has been good at managing those two groups, as evidenced by Jack.
Yes.
And Jack really believes in 39 Dark, which is very important because 39 Dark is the coalition. He may be from Midnight, but he's a fanatic for 39 Dark, which is the four-way coalition of groups with a common goal. So that's kind of interesting. He's not just a maniac for Midnight, by definition. And then Anne, can you give me just a detail about Anne?
Detail physical or
it doesn't
political?
matter. Anything to do with, well, let's see what it says precisely. It says concerning the relationship.
I think that I see Anne as less as a person who started with Lane Novak on politics. They probably started together, but is a little disillusioned about the whole thing.
So the relationship, yeah, go ahead.
I see that as a kind of voice of common sense. The sister, I think, is the opposite. Younger, more idealistic, and naive.
Got it. Now, so with Anne, they are lovers, so the romantic relationship is continuing, and although they don't really agree about politics anymore, or potentially,
Yes.
or at least she's a little weary of that commitment. I mean, the fact that Lane Novak has just become the spokesperson and nominal leader of 39 Dark, I mean, that's a new thing. So, but does it make sense? I'm going to ask you, I think it makes sense for their romantic relationship to be strong enough to have made it this far. So it's probably like a real romantic relationship is what I'm saying. Does that make sense?
They could even be married.
Yeah, or they could even be married. Right, right. So yeah, this is a real like socially established and committed
Yes.
relationship, or has been. Perfect. That's I believe all we need to do. Oh yes, the first agenda. We will only begin with one agenda for 39 Dark, and I love this because with a group that's so faction ridden like this, they can't afford to come up with a platform. If they have more than two items, they're going to fall apart on debating the second one, right? So this is like the one thing that they all know they can agree on for the moment. Listen, I know you're a bunch of pansies. Listen, I know you're a bunch of right-wing idiots, but at least we agree on this, right? And so for that purpose, let's take a look. We will jointly select from the categories under agendas. And I can see a couple of
Something,
things. Yeah, go ahead.
something that from my Italian European point of view came right up of me from the manual that I find rather strange, something that probably people is as anger about representation.
Ah, right, right. So that actually makes a lot of sense. They would say that the factions of 39 Dark may agree on very little specifically, but they all agree that the people need to be represented. It's like we're willing to
Okay.
vote, just let us vote for real. We
Yes.
want real. Yeah, you say there's a council, we have these representatives, but it's all bullshit, right? So, if at least for now we're willing. If we could only have a free and fair election, then at least we'd know where we stood.
Yes.
These interests. Yeah.
And then after that, our fiction will win the election, obviously.
Of course, obviously, yes, obviously, yeah. I mean, the twin issues of nativism and education. That's the real split here, isn't it?
Mm.
Right. That's where 39 Dark is the most vulnerable. You've got the education and outreach, and then you've got the nativism and kind of xenophobia.
We have a Martian colony
Right.
where everything is literally counted: air, food,
Right.
water.
Right.
And so I think it's as really, really an immigration problem.
Right.
People don't want any more people to divide resources.
Right. That's a big part of it, and also the whole thing of we worked for it, where they're going to get it for
Yeah.
free, but we do need an opening vignette, which
Mm.
is you will simply tell me a little bit, particularly, it's not exactly simple what he says in the book. Over the course of this brief scene, this is supposed to be brief, the Savior establishes Lane's background, qualifications, and relationship with the government and the 39 Dark movement. That's a lot.
Yes, it's like a very short vignette that has to narrate everything about the lane.
Right, right. So what I'm saying though is instead of being too detailed about it, maybe stick with imagery and
The imagery I'm thinking of um, is the Congress of 39 Dark.
wow,
Not
where do they meet?
Yes, and everything is decided. Everybody has put the vote. The result
We take
is
voting
obvious.
very seriously in 39 Dark. That's
Yes,
our point.
and is the moment that the people who counting the votes declare Kate Novak new president, secretary probably of 39 Dark.
So this is the moment.
Yes,
Mhm.
with people all around acclaiming, and at this moment it seems that he is loved by everybody.
Right. I mean, even people who didn't vote for Lane still are saying,
Yes.
okay, good enough. Right.
People are jumping on the winner cart. People who opposed it is the first to come out to congratulate him.
Sure. Yeah. Fair election. That's what we're all here for. Yeah. Cool. And so tell me a little bit more about where they meet. What kind of space are they in? What sort of hall or group is it? Is it secret, for example?
I don't think is exactly secret. I think there is a sort of you don't make too much trouble, we don't put you in prison.
Right, and Lane is also considered fairly, mainstream.
Yes.
Right. So 39 Dark is at least potentially thought of as maybe a step in the right direction by a fair amount of citizens. So okay.
So I think something like a little bit. We are in Mars, so there is not a lot of place. Congress hall, but not dedicated to 39 Dark exactly.
Right.
It's a sort of foundation, cultural foundation that put like a front. Everybody know that 39 Dark united there.
Right.
But the government, the police don't have to accept publicity that.
Right. So let's see. Would it be okay for Sidney Fain to be there, who is a reporter?
Let me see.
News Network Corporation.
Only 3 sheet managed to lose. Okay. Is Sidney Fain? Okay, Sidney Fain is the reporter on the ground.
Yeah, might even have been invited. At this point in 39 Dark, some effort for legitimacy is being made, or at least thought of by some. And so the idea that somebody would say, okay, we're going to let that guy come. We're going to let the reporter attend. We need fair reporting on this. So okay, that's cool. So what does Lane say? And also, is Lane male or female?
Male.
Okay, male character. Give me I need to see it.
Is around 40. Probably is one of the youngest head of 39 Dark ever. Probably a past on a little union organization, but not too much. He's more in steel. Though in probably has a background in school.
Mm-hmm.
A professor.
Right.
Maybe a professor who is not. Yes, he's accused by the press by using his position to poison the young of the.
But is also maybe respected for taking the sides of the students and not.
People probably in the news see the people of 39 Dark as a mass of thugs, ignorant,
The influence. Yeah, Midnight and Steel don't, or Midnight and Gold don't really inspire a lot of support from intellectuals.
And I think that every time there is some kind of demonstration, the camera of the public TV go looking
Of course,
for the
right.
dirtiest,
Then that's a
more
little harder.
angriest.
That's a little harder with Lane up there, who may not look
Yeah.
wimpy,
So
but looks like a professor to some extent.
they
Right,
began to put Lane on the front, to
right,
talk with the reporters, to
right,
talk with the
right,
politicians. So he came on top because I think he's the most presentable
right,
of
right.
that.
That's a good point. I like it. That's really good. Um, cool. So, what does he say?
He is uh, a short a short speech about unity. We are all together on Mars, and we will together reclaim our rights. So something that is vague
Right.
enough
Yes. Yes.
to make everybody content, but not alarm too much the general population.
Got it. Yeah.
So, something like we are strong, so we will peaceful get what we want.
And every single person in that hallway puts in their head, or else.
Yes.
Right. All right. The only question I have left is, I imagine that Jack is there.
Yes.
Um,
Not too near because there is hidden. Is not this bodyguard behind him
right.
when
Right.
he's on the stage,
Right.
but he is looking everywhere, and I think he's rather distrustful of journalists and
Right.
news
Right.
camera.
Absolutely. No, he's keeping an eye on the reporter, on Sydney. Seriously.
Yes,
Um, that makes sense. And of course, this is 39 Dark. I mean, Jack does not consider people enemies here, right?
yes,
But on the other hand, this outsider business is tough, right? We're getting into the light now, right? Lane could be in serious danger from now on, right?
yes,
That makes sense. And so, I know it's your scene. Could I suggest that Anne isn't there?
yes.
Right. Okay. All right.
Probably on the first row with the obligatory thanks. Obviously, thanks his wife that
Right. Right.
helped him reach this
Mhm.
point.
Right. Right. Got it. Who happens not to be present? Yeah. Okay. Fantastic. Um, I'm liking this. So, I'm going to start the first scene because the governor does that. Um, the governor sounds so nice as a name. I mean, it's kind of like the man. Right? So, as that role, I will begin the scene with early in the morning. Very, very. I mean, when I say early in the morning, I don't mean like getting up and having breakfast. I mean in the middle of the night. Um, and wherever it is that Lane finally can go home, um, perhaps, assuring Jack that, everything will be fine. I'll see you in the morning. Um, but I'm going to say that I'd like to see what happens when um, Lane finally, the cameras are gone, the story is gone, the followers are gone, the event is over. Lane finally can go home and be at sleep. And of course, who is there? Um, but Anne, because they live together. I mean, this is her home. And I'm going to suggest that they live in what you and I would think of as a dormitory.
Mhm.
I mean, it's very much a set of very small rooms, as a married couple who have been on Mars forever. In fact, I think Lane is native born on Mars. And they have what you get. They have what you get for doing this. That means they have their own, you know, they may not have their own bathroom, but they have access to the bathroom at specific times when other people don't. They have the ability to cook for themselves. Um, they may even have uh, access into and out of their living space that's either private or shared by a very few other similar families. So, and if they had kids, then they would be able to get more rooms. They'd be able to
Mm.
expand into the next apartment. And other groups, other families in that area, they have that. So, so coming home, that means that Lane has to go over some kids' toys in the stairs, um, and go to the very few doors that the staircase leads to. And the building is much bigger, or the area is much bigger. There's lots more people living there, but this is kind of the secondary entrance that's a little nicer. And so they've been living there a long time. They, like everybody else, they've done everything they can to make it look like a home. So there's a lot of personal details. They've set it up. They've got exactly the furniture that they can have that they want. They've got, you know, they may have even have done a little construction inside to create a partition, from a bigger room so that they can have different spaces in there. And so when Lane comes back and it's dark and it's, all the kids are asleep in the other areas, it's completely, shut down. Um, and coming in, you know, the Anne is going to be sitting up in like a chair, a comfortable chair, um, kind of with her, her feet tucked under her, and is the lights kind of dim. She's not watching the television, or I suppose it would be some form of cheap screen wall screen computer that everybody has. Um, she's not watching that, and she's not reading or anything like that. Um, but it's clear she hasn't gone to bed. She's been sitting up the whole time. So when Lane comes in, she'll um, look up and just not even have to say anything. Just kind of look like with a question, but not really wanting to talk. You know. Um, so what happens? Lane, that's yeah. Scene type, who's present, what's happening. And so tell me.
I think that Lane put away his overcoat. Jack leave him at the door. I imagine that in some way, Jack and some of these men have got in the same building,
Mm-hmm.
so they are very near.
Mm-hmm.
And after Lane closed the door, he see the look his wife has, but it doesn't debate or anything.
Mm-hmm.
He go to her, hug her, and say in her ear, "Don't worry, everything will be all right."
Mm-hmm. Um, yeah, she nods once. And then she'll get up and start doing all the things, like she'd already gotten ready for bed. She's already, wearing clothes for bed, but she'll finish going to bed and go to bed with Lane without talking very much. But she will say one thing before she turns off the light in the main area. She'll just look around like that and say, "Good night, Jack." Right? So, and that's that. Actually, I really like that. I don't think we need more of a scene than that. Um, that's a yeah. So, what scene type do you want?
Okay, let's look. I would like to see how the name is the progress scene work.
Moving straight into the action. Sure.
Yes, let's
Okay.
go into the action. Let's see. So,
Excellent. So what you do is you're going to implement a plan to advance the 39 Dark Agenda, of which we have only one, and to force the government to alter its policies. You're not asking, right? And that's why we elected you. You know, yeah. You check off the number on the timeline. Tell me where the scene. Tell me the fiction of this. I don't really want a description. I don't want an abstract description. I want a description of what Lane is doing and saying, and who's there, and where. And then you're going to declare the action level.
I think that the plan, the action in large scale is a teacher's strike with blocking. So even the people who don't want to go on strike can access the schools. Peaceful blocking. If someone wanted to get violent,
right. So in this case,
but
right.
Yes.
I was just going to say, so the fighters of Midnight and Steel are going to back up the teachers this time.
Yes.
Right. Right.
The scene could be on the front of the school, talking with some reporter. So let's see. Probably the same one, Sydney Fain. She is the reporter that is assigned to all to Lane.
Right.
And probably, if you agree, in the past, her reporting was not very impartial.
Right. Right.
There is a mistrust in her.
Right. Well, that's
toward
right.
her.
Right. Okay. So perhaps that's why the factions didn't target her. They targeted the feed writer instead.
Yes.
Or they have. Okay, so I want to know a little more, because when I think university or college, I don't want to think in terms of the traditional open kind of park-like thing. That doesn't work for Mars, right? So what does it look like?
I think it's more similar to the Italian high school. Not the best one, not the private one, the public one in big cities, and not in the best neighborhood. So think about a building, big, not in a good state of repairs. The walls have the paint of the walls, or do you call it in English, is crumbling down.
Mm-hmm.
It was built on a public the people who built this school had made a bid on a government.
Right. I understand. Yeah. And they took a lot of money, and then they didn't use it to making the school. Right.
Yes,
Yeah.
so you see the steel
Right.
in the pillars showing off.
Right. Right. I
It's
see.
broken down,
So from
and
the front, does it look more like a government building or sort of more industrial and less like a, you know,
yes,
yeah.
is broke down. There is rust everywhere. Some glass in the windows is broken, but
Hmm.
it's not changed. It's closed
Right.
with cartoon or something
Right.
else put there.
Right. Right.
And everything is covered by graffiti.
Right. Okay. Okay. Brutal. Okay. So the sequence of the strikes. So I'm going to say, since this is the
So,
beginning.
and of course, there is not a garden. The
Right.
door go right to the street.
Yes. Yes. So you go in and you go to the little office-like room and you take your class and that's it.
Yes.
Yes. So tell me, too, or rather, I'm going to say, because we're going to talk about the presence here. This is not a legal strike. Mars is not a
No.
labor-friendly environment, and the and so the response, the peacekeeper, the peacekeeper forces are there for a presence, and for the first time, or maybe more than they expect, perhaps, is that it quickly becomes evident that there is physical resistance is available. The other factions are present. I'm going to say that, just to be easy, that wearing a shoulder piece, not like a Mutant Chronicles sticking out thing, but just like a piece on your jacket of the of that's metal, and it's either scarlet or gold or silver or steel or black. And so suddenly seeing black and silver or black and steel, on these badges on the shoulder of people who have stepped forward and are standing in front of the school, or standing with a teacher, you know, who's striking, helping, walking with the teachers are walking there and giving speeches one by one and things like that. And there are 39 Dark faction members, always with them. And so when the police come up, and they're not like they're ready to riot and fight, and the police show up, they thought they'd have an easy time. A bunch of teachers, big deal. They've done this before, right? And all of a sudden, they see these hardened guys looking at them, and and so the police media liaison, whose name is Fakiri, will come, and uh, this is going to be a man who is used to making statements to the media on behalf of the police. And I'm going to say that although you might think the media guy for the police is kind of the wimpy office guy, no, this guy actually came out of the harshest riots and problems of all the last 30 years, and has a scar running down his face, and is, looks like someone who will take you apart with his bare hands very, very quickly. So media liaison Fakiri, is here on the scene, and instantly, of course, recognizes Sidney Fane, and so is quickly going to make a police statement about the situation. Um, so that particular interaction is happening. And meanwhile, the teachers are there demonstrating in front of the school, probably through Steel and Scarlet, are probably recruiting the students, right? Steel and Scarlet are student oriented groups, and they are going to be openly recruiting among the students, especially students who are there for their classes and not getting classes. They're going to say, "Ah, we are here for a reason. We're on your side." It's not just the professors and the teachers. They just don't want higher pay. This is for you. Join us, walk with us, support your teachers in a better school. Stuff like that. So it's a pretty big effort. I mean, there's a big turnout of 39 Dark personnel, people who are putting on badges who've never worn them before. Um, so this counts as civil disobedience. This isn't just this is not just you know, a little demonstration. It's not
Yes,
just a
at the
civil
front,
protest. Yeah, this
it's
is
not it's not violent, but it's not legal either.
absolutely. And so, yeah, civil, and so they are stopping the functions of the university or the college from operating.
I think there
It's
is
a shutdown.
enough people that they are stopping the street too. There's
Aha,
a
right.
very
So it
big
builds. Yeah, it builds.
yes.
Yeah, that's a thing. That means that you are going to be rolling 4 dice. And if you want to, before you roll, I want to know when Lane arrives and sees that this is happening. They did it. Look, 39 Dark, different factions. It's working. So what does Lane do?
Lane arrive when everything is organized,
Hmm.
even if he was the one who organized everything, but they want to arrive when there is a lot of people. So the camera can pick him with the empty street of few people. That they were shown on TV. This is the most people who showed up at the manifestation.
Right,
No, he wanted to arrive only with the street full of people,
right.
acclaiming people, to acclaim him when he arrives as a leader. It's a show of force, this one, in unity. And before talking to the cameraman, to the journalist, he go to a little is probably in front of the school there is a statue of someone or somebody covered by graffiti as everything else, and is a low basement, a meter, not more, but enough that Lane can climb over it. He is with head and torso over the people and salute all the people there, probably with the megaphone, and say that he's happy to see so much people, so many persons, and with the unity we will bring democracy back to Mars.
I'm going to say that Sidney Fane has a drone.
A drone?
Yes, a little camera that.
Okay. Yes.
Right, and so is using that as part of the reporter, and and Jack has been certain to because Sidney was talking with Fakiri. Well, Jack is certain to get in on that conversation and is going to show that he's not afraid of Fakiri. He's not afraid of the police.
Probably they know each other very well.
I was going to say there may be some history there. And so in fact, Jack is going to make a statement, probably discussed with Lane. At this point, Jack's not, insane, or at least I don't see Jack. I mean, Lane would not pick a completely crazy person, like a psychopath. Just the badass, the best badass. And so Jack's going to make sure he makes a statement to Sidney as well. And I'm going to say it's kind of unfortunate. I mean, Sidney is a woman who's professional, but it's not hard to escape the fact that there are two very macho guys who are, trying to dominate her attention and her coverage. and they're not above using body language to, kind of, you know, push her around a little bit. When the cheer goes up, Jack's going to say to her threateningly, "Did you get that?" You know, so yeah, it's kind of a negative vibe going on among the three of them. Um, but it's a joyous occasion. I mean, it's a very successful demonstration. The shutdown is happening, and you get to roll 4 dice.
When we roll, there is a rolling system on Discord, or we go to
No, use real dice.
I don't have the space on my desk.
Can I roll for you?
Okay, roll for me.
Okay.
I tried to roll 4 dice. 2 fell off the desk.
I saw, and I'm not going to torture you anymore. Okay. Well, lucky you. We have a 5, a 4, a 3, and a 2 for a total of 14.
14. So I already 14. Let's see the rules that I'm not sure I remember them. I could roll them again.
You can choose to roll them again. Now you have no ones.
At this time, I have no ones. I can ignore one. There is some fictional restraint about rolling more dice, or the situation fictional can remain the same, rolling more dice?
Well, it depends a little bit in if you had rolled a 1 and you're choosing to continue to roll with ignoring them, then that requires escalations. So there's no required content, but I think it makes sense to have something happen with each reroll or with each continued roll. Describe more about the scene, but there's no specific thing that you have to put into it.
I say that seeing that I didn't roll anyone at this point is going better than I hope. There is more people, maybe too much people.
Sure. And I'm going to suggest that the shutdown is occurring nicely. There's no violence. There's no break. I mean, by definition, there's no violence because you didn't escalate. So,
yes,
so the action itself is going better.
Probably some professor and some student wanted to go in the school, but very few. Only the more political motivated.
Right.
And we let them go.
Right.
But
that makes sense.
We make a point to have someone going to film the room empty with a single stand and single professor.
Right. So that looks really good for you. Yeah. So cool. So then, well, we'll see if it looks good for you with this roll. Okay, I see the rules. Don't worry about the rules. I got it. Go ahead and let's roll the 4 dice. So this is your hand reaching from Italy to Sweden to roll these. And so we have, in this case, a 2, a 4, a 5, and a 6.
Still no one.
11 and 6 makes 17. So you have
the total,
you have 17 31. And 14, 31. Now, if you quit, the plan is a success. And if you roll and ignore a 1, get 1, then it's a success. You're only allowed to ignore 1. You will succeed unless you get a 1 that you can't ignore. So if you get 40 points, then you've made significant progress toward that goal. And don't forget, you have more scenes. This is just the first progress scene. You can always go back and work on it some more. This isn't make or break right now. So there you go.
If I roll a 1 in general, not only the scene, and decide for example, in the scene I get a 2, 1, for example, and so I can ignore only 1.
Then it's a failure.
What happened? I lose all the points.
Right.
And what are the consequences?
Okay, so if the savior rolls a 1 that he cannot ignore, it's a disaster. The plan is a complete failure. And your only option, if you can just choose to take the failure and say, okay, we got no progress on this and it's a failure. And that's fine. You're allowed to do that. But you can also, and you will not, uh, okay, so hold on just a moment. So what will happen is that you won't get any points. There will be certain fictional outcomes that are no good for the citizens or 39 Dark. Um, and you can and you don't get any points that you rolled. I think you keep the points that you made in the past though. So then the other thing you can do though is you will try to feed them hope. You can choose to feed them hope,
Mhm.
and in that case, um, here we go. And so you can basically show that you're still optimistic, and even though it didn't work out, and feed the people hope anyway. And so then you will keep the change points, just not from the roll with a 1. So you would keep your 31 points in this case. And then you can either move a token from loyal to hope, or you will create a sacrifice. You have to sacrifice somebody. Either way. Um, and the trouble is that the tokens in um, the tokens in hope set you up for disillusionment later. So hope is a risk that people will become too disillusioned. You can't feed them hope indefinitely, basically.
Mm.
So for right
There
now,
is
your
those,
choice, right? Don't
my
worry
cho-
about all the mechanics. I know you want to
okay.
see the whole diagram. Don't worry about it. Just forget it. Quit strategizing and just decide: are you going to go for all the way? Going to
I, I,
shoot
I
for
am
40 points in the very
I
first
am
scene?
I am tempted to go to the 40 points on the first scene, but it's better not to push my luck too much.
Right. Excellent.
I
Hmm.
stopped here.
Okay.
The manifestation was a success.
Excellent. Yes, it was a success. You have not yet made what we think of as significant progress, but the foundations have been laid. As sort of a follow up, clearly the coverage was and one of the most important things that was successful was the coverage. You were able to get all the details that 39 Dark wanted into the media. And I will also say, however, that the police are well aware of 39 Dark, and you can bet that, informers and observers and, policy meetings are being held about this. Um, but also, the news network is and this is good business. They've got a lot of viewers. Everybody has an opinion. They go and they interview the council members. They go and they interview all kinds of things and try to get opinions. So the news is full of this. 39 Dark is the new hit topic that everybody has an opinion about. Um, Particularly because the coalition of these different kinds of radicals is in and of itself big news. Lane Novak is now a known face in the media. So much more so than your previous history as merely an intellectual dissenting politicized professor. Now you're in the news. Bearing in mind that the founder of 39 Dark, because 39 Dark had existed, the founder of 39 Dark was Eckart Poulsen, and he had given his first speech, and he was assassinated 20 minutes later. Right? So 39 Dark, has a new leader, following, the assassination of Eckart Poulsen, 39 Dark has regrouped, elected a new leader, and this is their first action. So that's occurred. And so it's your turn to choose either a oh wait, it's my turn. That was, you had chosen that one. So now it's a governor scene, and I don't think it's surprising at all. I mean, we have got to go to opposition now. After something like that, the if you had failed, then the opposition would sense blood, right, and drill into the failure. Now the opposition is operating very differently, possibly out of fear. Okay, now opposition scenes, even though they sound like there might be some consequences and stuff like that, they are nowhere near as complicated as a progress scene. So, right, right. Okay, so you can be involved in this, certainly. Um, right. So the opposition scene is going to go as follows. We'll actually follow Fakiri. Um, and we had said that Tandy, who is also in the Peacekeepers, we had said that Tandy had some connections. I believe it might even have been that Midnight had been making inroads to Tandy. I believe that's correct, right? And
Yes.
so uh, when Fakiri basically says he's holding a meeting, he says we've got to have, we've got to have an executive meeting among the peacekeepers. We've got to make sure that our funding is secure. We've got to make sure that we need to get popular support for the police. We need to we need to start worrying about weapons. We need an upgrade. And so so I'm going to say that there's a meeting that um, Chief Commander Zaki Zhao, Fakiri, and some of the other important organizational members of the Peacekeepers. Now, this is an area that looks privatized. This is an area that
Mm.
has a little park. This is an area, I mean, you think of the totalitarian police fortress. No, this looks like a corporate park. And so the leader of the peacekeepers, this chief commander of the peacekeepers, he doesn't look like a thug. He doesn't look like Fakiri. It's a reversal, right? Fakiri, the media liaison officer, looks like a scarred soldier, whereas Zhao looks like he's wearing a collared shirt with short sleeves, and looks like a clerk. And so they they are meeting and a few other people are meeting, and they're meeting in what looks, it's not really incredibly luxurious, but it looks more like a corporate conference table. um and so what they what and Zhao is saying these things. He's saying, well, we're going to need weapons, and you know what, we need to talk to the government. We need to get some money together from our backers. And he never says, he doesn't say our backers, he doesn't even say a name, he says our friends, right? We need to get some funding for from our friends to get at the weapons that Mars makes for Earth factions, for Earth politics. We need some of that here. We need something besides just shock sticks, you know. We need something that can handle crowds. We need, the we need some of that high tech materials that people can use to crack down on crowds. So they're planning on that. The and so I'm going to say that over the course of some time, maybe after a little bit more positive, or at least maybe the media coverage isn't positive, but the feed writer comes in, some pro 39 Dark articles, particularly those focusing um, focusing on the issues of the faction that targets that guy. Um, those articles start to come out, and so the peacekeepers are getting kind of pissed off. They step it up. A deal is made. Money comes in. You know, there's a payment to government officials. Remember the corruption? There's a payment to government officials. The media, the arms end of the government, right, is going to ship some arms that are supposed to go off to, I don't know, somewhere where they have all kinds of problems on Earth, someplace in Europe, of course, right, where
Uh,
things are exploding in Europe. Europe is a battleground. So instead of weapons going off for crowd control in Europe, they're going to stay here in Mars. So those crates are now delivered to the peacekeepers. Um, the one person who stays kind of quiet during all of this is Tandy, Deputy Chief Tandy. Deputy Chief Tandy has been talking with the Midnight faction as well, and they've been made it clear to Tandy that 39 Dark is willing to talk, and that maybe Tandy should talk. So there's been at least one meeting. Even Lane, is, I mean, they haven't made an agreement yet. Tandy's a true blue member of the Peacekeepers, but Tandy's at least listening because Midnight speaks his language. And so Tandy is willing to talk to Lane. Um, so that's kind of my setup for some opposition. It's coming from the Peacekeepers first, um, but it's complicated, of course. Um, so I think that's probably, Lane may even receive, a member of at a meeting, someone from Midnight will speak up and say, we've made some contacts in the Peacekeepers. There may be some room for agreement, on this. So that's my opposition scene. What kind of scene do you want?
hmm. Uh, let's open discussion space, stopping the game a moment,
Okay.
talking about how this work. At this point, I have the choice between two kind of scene. One is going to progress, but I fear that will bring a game of limited depth, something very numeral. Let's try to get more point. By the other hand, choosing a personal scene, it seems like the tour wasted time. Is
Well, that's just because you're used to your Euro games, and you and Michaela are never happy unless points are being made somehow. Um, let's see. Let me put it a little differently.
yes,
We are talking about 9 progress scenes.
yes.
Unless you build up too much disillusionment, that's 9 progress scenes. So that means that there's lots of room for personal development later as well as now.
Mm.
Furthermore, I really like your characterization of Novak, and I really am interested in watching Novak interact with the other characters. I mean, those follower characters don't have to be a source of terrible stress, right? There's some differences there, but there's no reason why they have to make Lane miserable. So there's room for them to be supportive as well, depending on how we interact. So there's plenty of room for building more strength for the opposition and progress scenes.
Mm.
So that's one. So I don't think they're a waste of time, and I'm interested. I'm genuinely interested. And then another point, though, is that we do have plenty of room. If you feel like the momentum of The Last Progress is exciting and we just want to see Lane in action for a little while, right? That's fine too. That's fine too. There's room for the personal. The If you want to do opposition now, then that means the personal scenes that come later will be strong. There's something to work with. So really, there's no bad answer. And don't think in terms of wasting time. We've got, I mean, real time. I'm happy to play this. I'm enjoying it. I like the way this. I like the way the characters are going. Um, and there's plenty of room.
Mm.
So feel free. Don't worry about whether it was a good idea to go make this scene or that scene.
Probably I would like to do a personal scene when we see the sister.
Right.
So we
Right.
see the one we haven't seen yet.
Excellent.
Uh,
Yeah. So this is going to be Sarah. Right. It should. This is kind of interesting. If it is involving 39 Dark business, then it shouldn't be a personal scene.
hmm.
That's kind of an interesting point. I mean, you just having more debate between him and Sarah about 39 Dark is more appropriate for one of the other scenes. So in other words, let's find out how Lane and Sarah.
I think that probably is a scene tied to the idealism of the sister, but not directly to 39. I think she do a little. Mm,
Let me ask you something.
yeah,
Just
yes.
start describing her doing something.
I think we have yeah. I don't know if this count as a personal scene. It doesn't.
Moreno, just describe the sister doing something and Lane
Yes,
talking to her.
I'm. My problem is not that I don't know what to say. I don't know the words in English. It's a language
Oh,
problem
okay.
at this
Okay.
moment.
Take your time. Take your time. Yeah.
Okay, is a tribunal
Yes.
scene. She she is as is the word accused of the very very little misbehavior
Right. Right. She's
of
yes.
her own.
Mhm.
Probably, maybe she has seen someone of the peacekeeper long enough. Someone who has done nothing wrong or nothing enough to warrant that, and she now is accused of obstruction of justice because she did intervene, try to film with the camera.
Right.
Is nothing tied with 39 Dark, but I show up to talk with. I'm trying in this scene to not be seen by camera.
I see. Okay.
It's not. It's personal. So
Easy enough when someone tries to put a camera on you, Jack stops them.
Yes.
Or someone assigned by Jack stops them and says, "This is not a public appearance. No filming."
So I think it's not a criminal misbehavior. She is not in prison or nothing like that. So we have sit together, near one or the other, and we are looking at the lawyer talking with the judge.
Right. Sure. So you're keeping her company. She's having a day, and you're with her. It's great. So Sarah will Actually, um, okay, she's younger than you, and you're 40. So I'm going to say she's significantly younger. So 12 years younger. So she's a grown woman and has, a life and everything. She's not a teenager, but the two of you didn't really grow up together, you know.
Okay.
So, by the time she was old enough to remember, you were already halfway out the door. You were already a mid late teen. And so anyway, though, she wants to she wants to tell you about this. Let's see. Yeah, she says, "Oh, hey, wait, let me show you this." And she starts digging in her bag. She carries like a shoulder bag, right? And I'm gonna say on Mars, everybody does. Everybody, it's men and women. They all look the same, right? These bags that everybody has. And so she digs, and she comes out, and she has a little handmade coloring book with just cheap paper, and it's colored with crayons. And she says, June June gave this to me. Um, June is a little girl who lives in her collective apartment area, and she says, look what June did. And so she's and it's kind of good. The kid's obviously a good artist, and has drawn, sort of drawn little words and stuff, bad spelling, and there's a little story that doesn't really make a lot of sense, but has lots of different things and go page by page, and it's a different scene in the story. So she's just showing it to you and saying, it's fantastic. I wish she's looking at it and say, I don't know where, I wish I could write like this. Then these kids, I mean, they're brilliant. They're brilliant. What happens to us? How do we get so stupid when we get older? You know, um, and and so what's interesting, of course, is that there are no forests, there are no mountains, there are no oceans. It's a Martian child, and she kind of taps the book. You guys are looking at it together. Do you say anything or?
Um, no, I look at the coloring book and compliment the drawing. Is a very gifted for her age. The background to this for me is that I am actually trying to keep my sister from politics. So I try to avoid everything about politics with her, both because I'm worried she will get in trouble sooner or later. At this time, they probably risk only a monetary,
Right.
but sooner or later she will get in trouble if she don't stop doing things like this. But I'm not trying to argue it
Right.
with her
Right. Right.
because we have done a lot of time. Is useless. So
Sure.
I simply trying to talk to her about other things. How
Sure.
do you do your personal life? I
Right.
see you are losing weight, something like that.
Sure. She actually will be open to that conversation. She's enjoying kind of a normal conversation. And let's see, Sarah says, uh, oh, uh, she'll she wants to she'll keep up that kind of conversation pretty easily. Um, and bringing out the coloring book was just sort of a little bit of sharing her life with you. Um, and she says, I wonder what kids on Earth would think if they saw this. What would they, would they know what it was like for a child here? She says, I bet that could mean something. I bet if we could get this published, if we could get this distributed on Earth, it's things like that that I really feel like we're fighting for, you and me.
I say I know some people in publishing. Maybe I could show this to some of them to see if they could arrange something.
She says it would be wonderful. This for thanks. And then of course the lawyer comes over. He's shaking his head and he said, "Well, second offense, June. This is they're going to charge you this time. You got to pay the fine." And June says, "Well," and she kind of stands up, puts her shoulders back, slaps you on the shoulder as you're sitting there, and looks at the lawyer and says, "That's what money's for." And so so that's the personal scene, unless you want to say or do anything more.
No, we can stop here.
Yeah.
Cool. Only describe Sarah
Yeah.
a little more. I some trouble imagining her. Describe something.
You want me to describe?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
You're playing her.
Fair. I think that Sarah was prettier when she was a teenager than she is now. But on the other hand, she has a direct and practical way of doing things that makes people trust her. So she looks. Let's see. When you had said you thought she was losing weight, she completely didn't affect her. She doesn't care. That's not important to her, and she also has sort of stopped. She's sort of stopped trying to make herself look available. She doesn't really. She's starting to look like somebody that you think is married, even though she's not. She's starting to look like somebody who has a career, even though her actual job career is way below her abilities. She just has some shit job in some manufacturing situation, and that's it. And it requires nothing of her, and it's going to do nothing for her. But she looks like people are probably going to assume that she owns a business, or that she is an entrepreneur of some kind, or is getting something done somewhere, running a department, or something like that. And she's not. So, but she has that, she dresses in a neutral, professional way. So yeah, she's not very colorful. But once you talk to her for 5 minutes, she's direct and has a presence. Right? More than one person has said to her in this past week, "Wow, I can really see that you're Novak's sister." Right? So yeah, does that help a little bit? I mean, she doesn't wear glasses.
Yes.
She doesn't.
Yes.
She doesn't have any kind of she doesn't look like a kind of hippie intellectual or anything like that. Yeah, and
she is not the image of the typical younger.
Yeah, she doesn't look like She doesn't look like a career. She doesn't look like a stereotyped revolutionary.
Like a lawyer.
Well,
she's
I was
probably saying like a lawyer more than a lawyer.
Perhaps I was going to say, and since she has a certain physical, solid appearance, she looks a little bit more like a real revolutionary. You see what I mean?
Not one from literature.
Right.
Not
exactly.
The typical image, but a real one.
Yeah. That's what I'm thinking. So cool. I guess it's time for you wanted the personal scene. And I have personal or opposition. I just feel oppositional. And so the problem is that Midnight's discussion with Tandy and Tandy's meeting with 39 Dark, possibly, maybe not with Lane. Probably not, because we didn't play it. Um, Seems to have gone wrong. There's a bunch of sudden arrests of Midnight faction people. And many of them are on charges that are long standing, old charges, things that people had thought were long over with, and they're never going to follow up on that, or they'll never find out. But it looks as though somebody has been doing some detective work. Somebody's been checking the records. Somebody has looked for whatever they can find, bullshit or not, on Midnight people. And the 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 first one taken is the person who thought that he could get an ally in Tandy. So, and it looks as though the meeting that they had with Tandy was a way for the police to figure out who they could go after. So a whole bunch of the Midnight, movers, the name people, uh, have either been arrested or they've been called in for a conversation or they were harassed by a policeman, right? So some police came up and harassed people and their families, embarrassed them or, tried to humiliate them in front of other people. And that all happened in the space of 12 hours, and at least 12 to 20 people have been targeted. And they're not a random target. They're the people in Midnight who were trying to arrange something with the police. So that begins to happen. People from Gold and Midnight are really pissed off. And so yeah, the sort of the sort of reactionary branch of 39 Dark feels stung. They're like, wait, where's our we're the ones who've been on the front line for you. We're the ones who've been we're the ones taking the risks out here. Look what just happened to us. So that occurs. You'll find out when members of Gold and Midnight are they actually meet Lane instead of waiting for a meeting or something like that. They actually meet Lane personally and say, look, we've got to talk. I'm even going to say that it's on a street. It's in the walkways. Streets in Mars, they're not full of cars, right? The streets in Mars are full of low power vehicles that are probably like the old mopeds, except not with gasoline, but with like where you pedal and that there generates electricity, that kind of thing. Usually, like instead of being two-wheelers, they're three-wheelers, so people can carry stuff. And a guy, some people on riding those catch up with Lane on the street and say, "Look, we've got to talk. We've got an emergency. That he was arrested, she was arrested, she got beat up. The police are after us. The whole thing with Tandy just went completely upside down. What we're in trouble. This is what we get. This is what we get for trying to work with these people. This is what we get for trying to work with, these guys. And the guy from Midnight's like, we're even trying to help the police. We're keeping order out here. Look at what's happening to us. So and so they're pretty indignant. They want you. You. We're supposed to be 39 Dark now. What's going to happen?
The first thing that I want to get is assurance that they will not react to this alone.
Well,
I don't want.
Yeah.
I don't want Midnight doing something maybe violent.
Right.
And I say to them that it could be shown by media as that showing them as an uncontrolled faction.
Right,
And
right.
I promise that they will give me some time. I can organize something all together, much bigger, that will show our unity, and I will not leave these people to hang without helping them.
Well, the guy from Midnight say, yeah, sure. While you have your time, we're the ones who are out there looking like Earth pansies, right? That's his term, right? The new Earth people, right? Those are the weak, as far as he's concerned. Yeah, we're going to look like them now. You know, they trust the police too.
I want.
So Gold says the two guys from Gold are going to say, look, we hear you, but we're on this now, and so we're finding information. We're going to find out how this happened. We let you know, and you say no violence now, but we're going to let you know where it needs to go. So when you say when the time comes, all right. When the time comes, we'll know where, and we'll know who. So yeah, the Midnight guys are very much going to Gold for help here, and so at least you're seeing some unity, right? So
not the way I wanted it, but
all right. Let's see. One more detail. A steel-dominated group of protesters is not protesters, because that would be an action, but yeah, when you get to wherever you're going, you will see that the sort of university-oriented members of 39 Dark are very excited, and the Steel, the members of Steel are eager. They say, "Look, this is our chance to show the other factions that we are unified. We've been fighting the police for years. We can let us at them, right? Let us at them. We've got people on every corner. Our numbers have grown. Our numbers have grown. We are 3 times, 4 times as big as we were a week ago. You want soldiers on the streets. You want to see Steel on every corner. With the 39 Dark is on it. Come on, Lane. Just let us know. Don't let us sit around." So there's your opposition scene and the consequences. Yeah. Might I just make a public statement here?
Mm-hmm.
I love playing the people in 39 Dark. All right. So that was my opposition scene.
I obviously choose a progress scene. Next one.
Click or check that box.
Yes, 8.
Mm-hmm.
I have to tie that to the representation. Probably in continuing what we talked about in the last scene. What I want is to keep every faction united, working together. Is a media assault, but without the support of the media, so it is a little tricky. For example, we want to show these people arrested as people that has made some mistake in the past, but now they're working for the common goal, good, because the police is doing nothing about crime, about the problem of the common people. So I will try to get right in the front of the big manifestation, so media cannot ignore it, people helped, people who got more than helped, people who got victim of crimes that police did nothing about.
Right.
Stop harassing common people and go against the real criminal.
So the interesting issue here is that the the best way that's going to work is through data, right?
Mm.
Through exposure of things. So that means that the members of Scarlet and Gold are going to get their moment, right? Uh, they are going to be able to really get to work and work together. So for the first time, Gold and Scarlet secret servers are combined or given each other access, and it's low tech and high tech as well. The data gathering in Mars can often be very low tech. So informers inside the government who collect the garbage, but turn over the garbage to members of Scarlet and stuff like that. They these these resources are pooled. So you're going to have can you so what I'm seeing is that Lane is basically working with these people and finding out what they know and trying to organize an
Yes.
information blitz. So where would that occur? I'm thinking of all these there are probably people you've never met, people who never show their face at 39 Dark or even within their own faction. I mean, there are members of a Scarlet and Gold that nobody's ever seen. They're only known by their handles. So therefore, like where you meet's kind of interesting. I mean, you might not even physically meet. Well, how are you going to do it?
Um, I think that I would like to say not exactly at the moment. I, I imagine getting information and the dirt, not like a single scene, but a lot of bits or crumbs.
Sure.
So I would like to play the scene where I show the public this dirt, not
right.
the moment I
Right.
get it.
Got it. Okay, that makes perfectly good sense. So when you do this, what does it look like? Or is it a broadcast? Is it a
Probably is another public manifestation in support of these people. As I say, the victim of crime on the front with the cartel, with the sign that attack crime, not people trying to help us, something like that. At the moment, me, I have the camera on me. I begin to talk and start accusing people on the peacekeepers of being tied with organized crime.
Okay, so what's going to happen then is that Sydney Fane, who's kind of been following all the 39 Dark stuff and now has a team of people working with her, she will instantly shut them all down. Instantly, all of the mainstream, the news network coverage shuts down immediately. Kill it. Right, kill it, she says. And she says, you're in contravention of the security codes. Novak. And
I have my own recording all
absolutely, yeah.
around.
Hmm.
They're
So
recording everything.
right, she's and yeah, she'll even uh she'll even call in Fakiri's squad and say that bootleg shit's not going to get you anywhere. And so the police are sort of moving threateningly toward the people who have those cameras and stuff like that. Um, and uh, and so I'm just saying, I mean, no violence has happened yet, but you're not going to get the mainstream coverage that you got before on this one. And at this point, you are in the progress that you have described is civil disobedience, not.
Mhm.
Oh wait, no, the first one was civil. That's it's not civil. It's the first level, the two die level, is what I'm saying. Um, yes, no, this is civil
Other,
protest. This is civil
yeah.
protest at the moment, just two dice. So that's
Uh,
where you're at now. So you can roll for that if you want.
how does this work? If when rolling again, when there is only there is not uh, two dice mean that I cannot ignore anyone. If I remember, I have to
I believe
escalate
that's
if I want
right.
to.
That is correct. If you get a one, when the action level is elevated above civil protest, you may. Um, right. So yes, if you ignore a one, then you will go from loyal to. Oh wait, you can't ignore a one. You'll have to go to the hope. Either accept the
Mhm.
failure or go to hope. So
I think
or
I
sacrifice.
I cannot rise the kind of action with a roll.
Unless you and well, if you want, you can narrate to move it into civil disobedience right now. I mean, it all depends
Um,
on what you're doing, on what Lane does, and what you describe. I mean, if you want to turn it into a moment of civil disobedience, go right ahead. I'm not going
I
to stop
think
that.
I will go directly to civil disobedience, and in this case is filming
Right.
everything and um, having and refusing to give the registration to the police.
Excellent. Yeah, and that's one thing. So yeah, you're like keep them rolling. Keep filming. Show them. Get it all down. Get their faces. Right. Get the police faces, and the Midnight and Steel. I mean, this is kind of interesting. Throughout the crowd, um, a number of people reveal that they're Midnight and Steel. So there's a lot more people here of those factions than anyone thought, and they do things like create shoulder to shoulder walls, and they and basically and right now they're being good. They're not attacking the police, but they are going shoulder to shoulder with each other and moving into formations that keep the police from penetrating to so it's looking pretty organized, and they're itching for it. I mean, you can tell. I mean, they're like, go ahead, try those batons, try them, just try them, go ahead. I'll be shocked. Shock me. See what happens to you. That's kind of their attitude. And so and yeah, the other factions of 39 Dark have done their job. They are broadcasting along with this because they're making it live onto the
Yes.
net, right? And they are broadcasting as well things that they found out, right? And one of the things they found out was the arms deal that the police made. So that's being exposed right now. So yes, 39 Dark is really striking back right now, and keeping their heads so far. So that is the circumstance. And yeah, so once you do that, it's civil disobedience because you've got lots of people. The public is a little scared. There's a lot of people there who had noticed this. There's a lot of people right now who are turning off their broadcasters, their computer TV things, turning off their screens at home because they're pretty sure that it's monitored who's going to be watching. I mean, who left their screens on. They don't know if there's that much control, that much data taken. It may not be, as Mars may not have the capacity to know who watched what, in every home or anything like that. Probably not. Probably half of the viewing is bootleg anyway throughout the colony. But a lot of people are being sure and they're turning it off. As soon as they see that happen, they're like, whoa, I'm not going to watch that. And so things are happening all throughout the colony now. Roll 4 dice.
You all.
Well, I am your avatar.
Yes.
Look at that. 2, 5, 5, 1.
Hmm. So
So
if I ignore the one, how many points I get?
if you ignore the 1, you are going to get 12 points.
I
And
go over 40.
yes, hold on, hold on. You'll get 12 points. Let's just do the rules. And when you ignore the 1, move a token from loyal to treasonous.
Hmm.
So go ahead.
1 point in treasonous.
hmm And you, if you wanted to keep going, so you understand the rule. If you wanted to keep going, you would, um, and if you couldn't ignore one, like what if you had two ones, but you wanted, what you could do, you could keep going and ignore the second one by escalating it into the third level.
But no, I
This is
think
violent unrest. I'm not saying you want to. I'm just letting you know
see.
that's the option.
Okay, the option.
Yeah. So therefore, yeah, you can take 12 points and call it. Say that's it. One bit of
Yes.
treason. What's a little treason, right? Right? When you get 40
12,
points. Yeah, 12 plus 31 gives you 43.
43.
hmm You have made significant progress. Um, you didn't sacrifice anybody yet. So that means that you can't use this moment to free someone who had been sacrificed. Um, and now it's time to create a new agenda. And let's take a look at our danger cards too, just to see that we don't want to forget them. And so while you're looking at the agendas and thinking about what you might be interested in for the next phase based on what's happened, um,
There's something about the media, I think.
yeah, we seem to have gone there. And also thinking about what we're angry of. Let's. I'm interested. I think I can. I think anybody can flip a danger card anytime. Let me just check the rules. Right. Turning over a new card whenever both players agree. I think it's time for a new danger card. What do you think?
Okay, roll the dice.
Here we go. There's our draw. I got a 3.
One of mine.
Right, so that's your third one.
Is the right one is total control of the media.
Total control of the media.
Yes.
Okay. Well, so it's the government's influence on the media, which in your case you're saying is total. The media have completely subordinated themselves to government authority.
I am angry that I'm leaving the Truman Show.
Yes. Yes. So perfect. So and you know what? Strangely enough, I'm angry about that too. So that's not really the case for Sweden, but in the United States, it is appalling at this point.
In Italy, there was a case years ago where big, important politicians was on trial, accused with a public act from
Right,
the magistrature. No newspaper,
right,
no one
right,
talked about this
right.
ever.
hmm
Why? Because he was the chief of the commission that gave money to newspaper.
Of course. So that's exactly, you know what? I bet that's exactly the same. Let's just say that's precisely what happened on Mars, in the last year. So everybody knows this is the way it is. So yes, perfect. We've got that. And then let's take a look at the agendas. And the agendas, as you say, it's all the same thing, right? There's the anger, there's the agenda. Everything goes nicely together.
I was
It's
looking before it. There was
transparency. It seems like transparency. Go ahead.
yes, transparency.
Yeah. So I noticed last time we didn't turn the agenda we picked into a call for action. Well, we kind of did. We just didn't call it that because we were talking about representation and using the student issue as an example. Um, So the first one was representation. And since you made significant progress, let's remember it wasn't just for that school and education, it was for representation. So if you made significant progress, it means that the people of Mars are starting to demand that they get a better election process underway. So the government's kind of caving about that now. Um, so that's good. I mean, you actually have pushed for a better election process, a better voting process. Um, you know what? I have a suggestion. Maybe we should have set this up a little better before, but one thing that's a big serious issue in representation in the United States is the use of electronic voting.
Mm.
Even though a great deal of the machines have been shown to be easily compromised. So, and it's also worth pointing out that the states are very different from most other democratic countries in which they have ballots that are done on paper. They are counted slowly by hand with recounts. So you don't find out what happened in the election until a week later.
Mm.
Whereas in the United States, everyone demands that they know the second that the voting is over. So not only are the votes counted immediately, but they also are counted using these electronic methods. And third, the election is continuing even as the votes are being counted and announced. So the votes so far are obviously going to influence the votes that are yet to be cast. And then it's announced immediately. So what I'm saying is that here on Mars, maybe there's a push to have slower, more low tech voting, so that that particular form of you know, maybe the way that the representatives are picked is coming under review, so stuff like that.
And see, something like the ballot have to be uh, possible to be counted. The
Right.
representative of any organization was some
Of course. Yeah,
yes.
of course. And so, yeah, this is all. So, therefore, to really, I'm going to say this has just begun here on Mars. I mean, it's significant progress. It's not, solved. But the next thing you're finding is that the biggest obstacle to making this very successful is that it's really hard to get the populace to understand just how bad it had gotten, just how bad the every the phrase "a free and democratic Mars" is a common phrase. At least we're a real democracy, not like Earth, right? At least we're the only true democracy in the solar system, that kind of thing, the kind of rhetoric. And so, it's hard to get people to believe it. So media transparency is becoming more and more obviously a problem. In fact, yeah, I'll even say, that you asked for a progress scene. Uh, I guess I'm just working with narration, right,
Hmm?
of the success and thinking about drawing this new card for the danger card and picking the new agenda. All right. Well then, I'm going to call for. I think it's time. I mean, especially after this crashing success, right? This.
Okay, I want to say yes. I want to bask in my success for until next time.
I'm going to say there's a personal scene now, um, that is going to involve Jack,
Hmm?
and Jack's actually gonna ask for your help with something. And he says that he's already devoted a lot of time toward a lot of personnel toward monitoring Anne and Sarah, because he says, after this, they're coming after you. You know that. And the only way that they're
Hmm?
going to come after you is through your family. He says, I know Fakiri, and I know they call him the media, the media liaison, but there's a lot of captains throughout the Peacekeepers who listen to what he has to say. So he fights dirty. So I've been you and Jack are uh probably having, I'm going to say uh this is going to be at the context of some meeting that you had with workers, with the workers group. But it's after the meeting, and you guys are looking at the minerals that are being processed. There's all these bins and furnaces where where they're melting things and stuff like that. It's a refinery. Um, and to be in there, of course, you have to be wearing a breath mask. Um, and So you and Jack are both wearing those. You've had this meeting and you've been shown this area, and you're probably just, Jack says, let's hold on a minute. Let's talk here for a little bit, especially because it's noisy. And
Mhm.
there's no way that anybody can hear you talk here, especially because it's an unplanned moment. You're in a noisy place.
The mouth is covered,
Right,
so
right. So
the
this exactly. So this is a perfect moment. Jack is telling you about this, and he says we've got to step things up. I mean, 39 Dark. I can't believe you've done it. Look at what we've accomplished. This is fantastic, Lane. We've got to keep going. But the danger to you, it's huge. The danger is, and I'm worried about Anne. I'm worried about Sarah. He says, and I'm worried about my own family.
Mm.
I'm worried about them. I'm worried about all the vulnerable people that our action, is going to be putting at risk. He says, can we set up some kind of coordination among families so that my wife can call Anne, or just coordinate a little bit, coordinate so that people can keep check. I can't have somebody of mine watch all these families when the police have ramped up the way they have. I mean, we know about those weapons now. We're going to be going up against military grade weapons soon. And I can't spare people to watch all these different families just on guard. That's not possible. We have to have some grassroots action among them. Right now, we've been trying to keep them out of it, but we can't keep them out of it anymore. They're in it. And unless we want them dragged off in the middle of the night while we're standing guard at some protest, they've got to be able to communicate. We've got to pull all the resources of 39 Dark together. We've got to, um, you know, we got to call in some of those rednecks from out there in the mines. We've got to, the people I came from. We've got to call in some of those people who are just pure midnight, not 39 Dark at all. We got to start getting them ready to, to beef up our abilities. But at the same time, I'm worried. I'm worried about the people that we can't guard.
I think the coordination we talk about is a good idea. I will talk to Sarah and Anne,
Mm-hmm.
and I think they will agree. With Sarah, we probably will take a little more discussion, but I think I can convince them to agree. About people from midnight, the important, yes, organize some, but try to keep them from being tied to 39. Yeah. If the thing get rough, it could be useful having some muscle that can't be tied back to us.
Well, he kind of, he kind of blinks a little bit. That's a little bit insulting. And he goes, "Huh. All right, all right." He shakes his head and said, "This walking, this I don't know how you do it. Balancing between how we look and what we do. I don't know how you do it." And this is why it's a personal scene instead of an opposition scene. He, for the first time, you've never seen him do this. He takes some pills out and pounds them dry, and he does it with such a practiced action. Looks like
It's
he's
not
done
the
that.
first time.
Not the first time. Yeah, he did. And you know what? You realize that he didn't even know that he didn't realize you were watching. In the past, if he's been doing this habitually, he's been doing it without you looking. He doesn't even occur to him that you're watching. It's too automatic. And he kind of, in a little bit, he kind of gets that tough guy look on his face, like he's listening to internal rock and roll. And says, "Don't worry, Jack," or says, "Don't worry, Lane. You keep with the ideas, you keep with the leadership. We'll keep you safe. I swear it."
I put my hand on the shoulder. I'm sure you will. I trust you completely.
Mm-hmm. And on the way out of the factory, one of the the people who work there, a manager there or something, wants to come up and say something, and Jack just gets in his face, nose to nose, and says, "What?" And the guy backs down, and Jack says, "Come on, let's get out of here."
I try to look at the guy,
mm-hmm.
saying something like, jesting like, "Sorry, my bodyguard is commanding me at this moment," but making look that they wanted to talk to him, but they can't.
Okay, cool. So there's your personal scene with Jack.
Yes, I think this time we could stop the session and until the next time.